All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Digital Influence Show with my guest Kelly Malozzi. Sorry, that was all my bad. I'm sure that
Okay.
never happens to you before.
Never.
Yeah, when you have a last name of Lee, it just it's always good to fall down on a last name every now and
I'm
then.
not going to lie. I'm jealous.
So, well, you know what? We never could have married though, or you can never have taken my last name because Kelly Lee would just, although it'd be fit on a license plate maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got off on a totally wrong start. Kelly is with me today, and as you saw from the description of this, Kelly is in print. She's a founder of a company called Success in Print, and she is a founder of an organization or group association. You have to explain more for me on that, on Girls Who Print. And I love the print industry. I came out of the print industry, but I still have ink that runs through my veins. It's just, mixed in with a little bit of digital stuff. So, Kelly, welcome to the
Thank
Digital
you.
Influence Show.
Thanks.
So,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I just say, so tell us a little bit about your company and about you, and this conversation is going to go into like how traditional industries may struggle or how they need to move into digital, but your specific background is in print. But tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Yeah. I mean, after having sold printing for great big giant companies and little mom and pops and everything in between for the better part of 20 years, I started my own consulting practice, helping salespeople predominantly. So coaching, mentoring, trying to help provide strategy for anybody who's trying to develop relationships and engage with people about the crucial part of the marketing supply chain that is the printing industry.
Right.
Just for clarification, so I got involved in Girls Who Print better part of a decade ago through meeting Deborah Korn at different events, but she and Mary Beth Smith are actually the founders of Girls Who Print. I myself have been involved and was elevated to girl number 2 a few years ago. And currently we're celebrating Women's Print History Month. Since it's Women's History Month, we are featuring women in the industry. And so to tell you what Girls Who Print is, it's really a movement. It's a movement to provide information and resources and empower women in the industry. And, because we're seeing the printing industry is evolving and diversifying. And so, we're shining a spotlight on all the women who are currently elevating themselves and taking leadership roles within print. So I joked with you when I spoke to you last week. I didn't, as a child dream of being in the printing industry, but I am glad to be here having, been doing it for 30 years, which is still a very difficult thing for me to admit that I'm old enough to be able to say that. I find it to be a fascinating industry. I find it to be not without its frustrations, but I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and just really, really grateful that you have me on the show.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed our conversations together. So I hopefully will just kind of move that natural fun chit chat that we've had into the show today. So has the printing industry embraced digital well?
If you want to talk about digital marketing, I think some companies have, and let's say, let me push the pause button and rewind. It's complicated, right? Because obviously,
did you like how I threw a really generic, open question at you? Yeah,
because obviously, digital printing, absolutely. Although I will, I'll tell you a funny story. When I decided to go work for, to sell capital equipment in 2009. Everyone I reached out to was like, you want to go sell capital equipment during a recession? Are you insane? And back then, I would say printing companies hadn't really embraced digital, and I'm talking about digital printing. Digital marketing, again, I'll say the answer is it's complicated. Some companies absolutely are strong in digital marketing, and they're very much focused on the idea of integration, right? That we believe that digital marketing is a crucial part of any marketing strategy. And that being said, we still really want to emphasize the importance and success of putting ink on anything today. So yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah. So my kids who are very fond of tattoos, they put ink on skin. So you're very fond of that as well, I take it.
I do have a couple tattoos. I'm not going to lie.
You know what? I think, well, other than our youngest, two youngest kids, I'm the only one without tattoos. My wife, I think, has like 7 or 8, and then all of our older girls have them as well. I'm not opposed to them. I just haven't
No,
figured out. I think part of it's from coming from the print industry where you think about, you can print something, go, oh, we messed up, you throw it away, but you stick that ink on their body and it's just there.
it's not going away. Yeah.
That's pretty. So I appreciate hearing that. And I know digital marketing is tends to be the first area. What about some of the first area that companies will embrace? But what about some of the other front-facing teams? I know where I discovered you is you were on another show or a podcast or a live webinar, and you were getting pretty passionate about using digital to start conversations or build relationships and how to do it. And as I was watching it, I'm like, I've got to have her on my show. Can we talk a little bit about that and what you see happening in specifically the print industry, but I know it's applied to a lot of traditional manufacturing type industries.
Well, I think, what really we're talking about is it's kind of the intersection of acceptance and adaptation. Right. I always like to tell the story that back when I got started selling in the early 90s, it was my 2 feet and my sample case and a phone. And
Yep.
Today what we have to do, and so what I mean by acceptance and adaptation is we have to accept that people are not picking up the phone. And we have to adapt to whatever tools are available to us in the toolbox to really engage with people and formulate what are the beginnings of lasting relationships. And so if social media is going to be the thing that fits that bill, then by all means, we had better get our house in order and start using those things because, and you and I talked about this last week, really we're talking about a landscape of essentially 5 generations of people who are empowered to make decisions today. And yes, that doesn't just apply to the printing industry. That's everywhere, right? You told me your oldest daughter is about to come out of college. We have to be able to engage with and communicate with and formulate, trust with 22-year-olds. And we have to be able to do that with everything along the spectrum all the way up until, 70-year-olds. And so one tool is not going to cut it. We can't be one-trick ponies anymore, right? We can't just rely on the phone. We can't just rely on email. We have to be able to use all the tools that are available to us today. And that also does include sending a letter in the mail too. I mean, I'm a hybrid animal, to be honest. Being very firmly and very proudly Gen X, I'll write a handwritten letter and I'll record a video and upload it, to Instagram or, God forbid, TikTok. Not there yet, but again, we have to be adaptable. And, I know part of where this conversation is going to go is it's about fear and discomfort. People are afraid of what they don't know. And when something makes them feel uncomfortable, it's too easy to just go, nope, not going to do it.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to say is nothing in this relationship building, starting conversations with new prospects world of sales. I like to say nothing has changed. It's just done differently. How do you translate that, or what do you make of that, or how would you explain that further?
Well, I mean, I'd probably want to replay the statement again, but I think that things have changed, at least for me, in the way that, how commerce actually happened in the 90s. And again, I can't really speak to anything prior to that, but it felt a little more transactional and it felt a little more straightforward, right? I sell these things, you buy these things. And then we still have to marry the idea of being trustworthy and likable and responsive and all of those things. But I think it really focused more on the product, where today it feels like we are much more focused, or at least successful people are much more focused on solving a problem, understanding that what we provide is a service and what we provide solves problems, right? So I don't need to talk about my big iron. I don't need to talk about speeds and feeds. What I need to talk about is the effectiveness of direct mail or the effectiveness of outdoor advertising or things like that. So my hope is that it's all absolutely still relationship. I think that's what what you're talking about is we still need to believe that the foundation of any transaction of any two people who are entering into business together still has to do with relationship. But it, again, even that is changing. And that's what I think is so unsettling for so many people who've been doing it for a really long time is how am I supposed to formulate a relationship with somebody that I've never looked them in the eye or shaken their hand? That's really scary for a lot of people. And it's really hard. And so those of us that have said like, you and I are friends now, right? Like this is all good. And if we ever met each other face to face, we'd be like, what's up? We'd be so happy to see each other. But we also know that like, this is a relationship now. We're in each other's stadiums, right?
I tried giving you my last name at the beginning of the call. I mean, like I went against all the sales things possible, right? I tried getting married on the first date, so to speak.
Oh boy, that's a no-no, Brandon. That's a no-no.
Exactly. Well, and you know what? I'm kind of glad I made that mistake because it does speak into what I think you were just saying is that as sales move from offline, where it was more, people traditionally were more about the longer term relationship. When we move to online, it does seem like the prevalent strategy tends to be send an email or send an email that asks for their hand in marriage on the first message, right? Hey, we're really awesome at what we do. Would you like a demo? Here's my link. Can you speak to that? And what are other ways that salespeople can do that better?
Well, again, in any process, any prospecting process that has steps, we still, I think, do need to embrace the idea that not any one tool, is the monolith that's going to work, right? So deciding that your process is to just shoot out private messages to people until somebody bites is a catastrophe. But the idea of doing something like cultivating valuable content that you would share on a platform like LinkedIn, bearing in mind that the people that are in your community are hungry for education and entertainment and engagement. I make it easy on you, right? 3 E's: entertainment, engagement, and education, so that you find yourself in the habit of posting information that is valuable to those that you seek to or already do business with. And then again, it requires a mind shift, right? To say like, I believe that I can actually have a conversation with somebody in the comments on a LinkedIn page. And it's true. You actually, this, right? You can absolutely have conversations on LinkedIn. And I've even seen them devolve into arguments sometimes, or, pretty heated battles over things. But again, that's the 2022 and beyond kind of paradigm that we're looking at is we have to take the engagement, the conversation, the relationship, wherever we can get it. And, if that means posting pretty pictures on Instagram, you absolutely should be doing that. If it means Facebook posts or Twitter or any of those other ones that I'm scared of, like TikTok, we just, again, it's accepting that these things are happening. And so your choice is get on the, get with the program, join the party, or, you may find yourself feeling, left out in the cold.
Yeah. That's really good. Well, I'm going to put Thomas's question on here and I'm going to add to it. So he said, how can traditional salespeople, like from the print industry, get started using digital in their sales process? And I want to add to that. And that's a great question. Thank you for that, Thomas. But I want to add to it. You just said if, using these modern tools, like maybe even posting pretty pictures on LinkedIn as a way to prospect. What do you mean by that? And how does that, because I think there's a lot of, I find a lot of times there's a disconnect in people's minds. They're Gen X like we are. And the big shout out to Friends and Seinfeld and our Thursday nights, as we discussed. Yes. But, where Gen X was, we went to networking events, we went to conferences, we knocked on doors, we called, we met people on the golf course, you met people at sporting events, you met people at bars that had networking events going on. when we say use Instagram and pretty pictures or cool pictures as a way to start those conversations, I feel like a lot of times there's just a disconnect. And what does that really mean? So could you break that down? And I think it piggybacks on what Thomas was asking as well.
Yeah, I'll answer your question and then I'll answer Thomas's, because I think that it really does matter that your philosophy is that you are strictly sharing those things for by virtue of sharing them. And that's a full stop. I want you
Mm,
to see, hey, world, I want you to see this really cool project we worked on, period. And it's not, and we can do it for you too, or call us today and get a quote, right? It's just simply look at this cool stuff. That would be for Instagram. Again, for LinkedIn, the idea that maybe you have a stable of, thought leaders and content providers that dial into what your audience is interested in. And I just developed a list of this for one of my clients. So it's basically like a cheat sheet, right? For like, if you're ever looking for content, here are places to go that will always give you something valuable
mhm,
to share. But then you also have to put your own spin on it too. So for example, if I want to share a video that Trish Witkowski did about a 60-second super cool fold of the week, I might put some context around that, like, hey, everyone, here's a way that a nonprofit used direct mail to effectively invite more people to their virtual event.
mhm.
Again, full stop. That's, you are seeking to educate people. So you participate in these mediums for the education, the engagement, and the entertainment. And it is part of what earns you the right to ask them out for coffee before you get married, right? So it
Yeah,
is a part of a prospecting process, but it is not the sole part of a prospecting process.
right.
We still are
When
we still are going to send emails, and we still are going to make phone calls, and we still are going to send letters in the mail, right? We're going to use all those tools, all those mediums that are available to us.
Yeah. So I want to jump into your three E's, and we've talked. You just gave good explanation about educate, but I want to talk a little bit about entertain. So I know, like, with really how I got into, and I hate the term social selling, but how I got into using social for business development purposes and networking and growing my influence was when I started realizing that if I stopped talking, not entirely, but I reduced talking about myself and my business, and I started talking about other things, and this is where I'm kind of leading into that. What do you mean by entertain? Is that my engagements went up and the opportunities to create real conversations with people expanded very quickly. So when you talk about educate and entertain, what do you mean on the entertain side? What does that practically look like? And it's really kind of going back to what Thomas asked, because, and I'm going to give me like 10 more seconds and I'll pass it off to you. I'm sorry. In my early days in the 90s of selling and being in the print industry, the entertain part came with, hey, I got tickets to a game, or let's go golf, or do you want to meet for cocktails? We're going to host this happy hour. And that was where that relational chit chat took place that helped earn the right for the sales conversation. What does that look like in our digital world?
Well, again, having a stable of providers and content creators at your disposal is, I think, very crucial. And in the printing industry, the one that stands out the most to me are the Sappy Off Register videos. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but they're episode quality television shows set in a print shop. And there
Mm-hmm.
are about seven or so episodes. They were shot with Second City actors in an actual print shop. And they are really, really funny.
Is is
So
that is that called The Office?
it's shot exactly like The Office.
Right.
Have you seen them?
I've seen one or two of them. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've seen them all.
They
Yeah.
are they are really so funny. And again, anyone who has ever set foot on the floor of a press room will absolutely identify with this. And anybody who's ever been or worked with a graphic designer will also think these things are really funny. So, and I don't mean it just that we need to, just make people laugh, but anytime I post one of those, I get thousands of views, dozens of comments, and multiple people telling me I've never seen these before. And for me, who assumes that everybody in the printing industry has been doing it longer than me, it always blows me away. And I think the takeaway is you'll always have a fresh pair of eyes. There's always going to be, when you share something or you say something out there in social media, it's always going to reach somebody for the first time. And then you get to be the person that showed it to them for the first time. But again, it doesn't have to just be sappy off register. I've had a lot of fun recently highlighting movies and TV shows that have featured printing presses. You know, so the opening of Inventing Anna on Netflix, in the show The Gilded Age, which is set in the 1880s in New York City, they're regularly meeting in a press room, you know, and I mean, I geek out about stuff like that. Like I get really excited about it. So to Thomas's question, you know, again, it's thinking, it's constantly asking yourself the question, what do the people in my community find valuable? And also it's okay that that message and the content that you're sharing also dials into, you know, what you offer or, you know, how you can help. So Two Sides North America is a really good example. You know, they're full of infographics, information, blogs about how much the printing industry are stewards of the environment. So, you know, having bookmarks of, you know, 5 or 10 places that you can go that are reliable for good content is a great way to start, and really, you know, just dip your toe in by just reposting something or sharing something, you know, and always, you know, tag a couple friends or use a couple of the industry, you know, the industry's most popular hashtags just to get some extra eyeballs on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll put that in there. Nikki, thanks for joining us. Nikki joins quite a bit, but she's got some buffering issues going on. So we'll see you next time, Nikki. Thanks for popping in though. Kelly, I want to, you know, ask this question because I love what you said, and I want to push it a little bit further, and I'll share from my own experiences. What I found is when one of my most engaged posts was actually a picture of a 10-year-old boy on a dirt bike, sitting on my doorstep, asking if my then 8-year-old daughter could come out and play. And it, you know, the little story I wrote around it was, you know, it was Saturday morning. I was up drinking my coffee. I'm on my laptop and I heard a motorcycle, and we have kind of a long driveway. And so I knew they were coming to our house, and I start going through, as I shared, we have 5 kids. So I got going through my Rolodex, right? My mental Rolodex of kids, like, you know, first daughter at college. No. Second daughter, she's engaged. No, you know, going through it. Never in a million years did I imagine a boy on a motorcycle would be showing up at my house asking for my 8-year-old to come out and play, right? He opens up his little mask on his helmet and he goes, "Hi, Mr. Lee, can Zoe come out and play?" And I died laughing. So I snapped a picture of it and I posted it. And I think at the time, I mean, it was like 75,000 views. It was like almost, you know, 300-400 likes and 150-200 comments. And what I noticed with that was it connected with humans, no matter what our titles were, no matter what industry we were in. People that were parents, especially parents with little kids or parents who had little kids and resonated with that parent, were like all over it. And then I was able to then, like, for me, a very engaged post like that was an opportunity to create further conversations. And last thing, and then I'm going to throw it off to you. I learned and saw that type of post was a lot like telling an interesting story at a cocktail event where everybody starts listening and they laugh, they engage, they tell their own versions of the story. And that's where we connect. And that connection, because I'm still, you know, a product of the 90s and some of the things are still good and I bring, is you've got to be known, you got to be liked, and you got to be trusted. And being a human is a good way of doing that. So that was a long setup to a question of, where do you see, or do you not see, opportunity for that type of more personal type of content in sales?
I'm a huge fan of it. And I think what you're talking about is appealing to a person's emotional side. using authenticity and using nostalgia. I mean, especially as we get older, we get more nostalgic because nostalgia, Brene Brown just wrote a book called Map of the Heart, where she breaks down like 170 different emotions. And I mean, this is something I would want to hold on to and foster as much as possible, is to get people feeling, because then let's face it, the next logical thing that you can do in a case like that, if you were to really want to be proactive after taking a beat, is to connect with some of those people via LinkedIn and say, thank you so much for liking my post about the little boy on the dirt bike. Because then you're just making the connection that much stronger, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there who hesitate and think, well, I'm not supposed to do that. And my answer is, of course you're supposed to do that.
I thought you were going to cuss.
That's what it's there for. No, I've decided I'm not going to go there. I make no promises. But honestly, like we are emotional human beings, and we are nostalgic, and we do, connect to things like that in a way that's going to be way more easy to remember. Because spoiler alert, that's one of the things, what you told me last week about, yes, no, like, and trust, but be remembered.
You remembered that.
That's been a very transformative thing for me, Brandon. I have to be honest. Cool. Like because it's, it's like, no matter how long we've been doing these things, when someone says something to you that really makes you go, huh, I really internalize that. And I think, that's the entire point of social marketing, is to be remembered. Because
it's the point of prospecting, right?
What's that?
It's always been the point of prospecting. It was just prior to that, maybe a company had 2-3 other people that knocked on the door. It was real easy for them to remember the 3 or 4 of you. But now we've got an entire social media digital world that we compete with, and everything they look at on Instagram, they look at on Twitter, they look at it wherever. And that's why I think it is very important to be remembered. And being remembered, we've got to be, my opinion is, we have to be more human. And one of your favorite words, we have to be more authentic, because that emotional connection to people, and I know we're not supposed to talk about emotions and sales and all that. Well, here's my turn. That's bullshit, right? It is true. Kelly asked me if she could cuss on the show, and I said, absolutely. So I'll just lead by example there. But it is, because it's just not the way human beings act. We work with people who we know, who we like, and we trust, and who we remember. So I'm sorry, I cut you off because I got all excited.
Oh, no, I just, I've always thought since the very beginning of working in outside sales in the print industry was the challenge of selling a service as opposed to a product, right? So I came out of retail, where people walked into my store and I sold them lots and lots of clothing, and then they left. And that's a very reactive, very product focused sales model. But when you sell a service, and especially when you sell a service that person might not need to avail themselves of your service today, it might be tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, that remembered element is crucial, because they don't have a Rolodex sitting on their desk anymore, do they, Brandon? Right. So how are they supposed to remember that woman that emailed them, or that showed, that sent them a link to a really cool article, or who they've been engaging with on LinkedIn? That's why it's not something we can just do once either. You can't just populate your Instagram post with 10 pictures and then be like, okay, done.
Yep.
Right. We have to formulate the habit of doing it regularly, and know that it's a living, breathing thing, and that the number of connections that we have and the way that we interact with those connections needs the air and water of, some kind of regular. I mean, for me, it's daily. For me, it's hourly. Yep. But for other people, it's like, you start small, say just post once a week. Just make it a goal to connect with 2 more people, and then just kind of see where it takes you.
Yeah. Kelly, I have a favor to ask. We're running up on time. We just hit 11:30. We like to go at 30-minute shows. Would you come back and keep this conversation going?
Oh my gosh, of course. I would love to. So Thank you.
I asked you in public, and I asked you on a recording so that you couldn't say no. I know that was totally not fair of me, but I would love to keep that conversation going, because we were just starting to get into some of that practical. stuff. And I believe in, and you and I have kind of talked about this already, is there's that big disconnect with a lot of people, a lot of sales professionals, especially those that are in traditional, printing, manufacturing world, where there's just that disconnect to how do I take all my experience and everything I've done well and known and honed and became an expert in all those years and apply it into this world. And I believe a lot of them reject the digital world because they don't know how to apply the part of who they are for the past 30 years and applying that into a digital world. And I think when people like you and I help them see that there's a bridge and you don't leave everything you've done behind, you actually apply it in a new way, that's when digital sales becomes the lifeblood of their business and their commissions and their growth. And I would love to talk more about that with you.
Yeah,
if you're willing.
I would love to. That'd be great.
Excellent. Well, Kelly, as we're wrapping this up, you want to tell everybody listening how they could find you if they'd like to speak with you further?
Well, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. You can find me at successinprint.net. You can find me on the Girls Who Print page. The Girls Who Print LinkedIn group is approaching 9,000 members, I think, worldwide. So you can always find me there. It's pretty easy to find me. So
excellent. Perfect. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being my guest today. I look forward. We'll schedule a follow-up. And everybody, thank you again for coming to the Digital Influence Show. If you're live with us on LinkedIn or if you're listening to the podcast, I really appreciate it. And please add your comments, add your questions, add your notes. And if you ever want to be a guest on the show or you think you have something to contribute, reach out. I'd love to bring you on.
Thanks,
all right, everybody, have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. Bye-bye.